Thoughts are free. They are not subject to any laws. Within them lies mankind's freedom. They rule the world in splendor, create a new paradise, a support, a well of strength, from which springs creativity.
We had experiences at the Ars Electronica this year, situations where everybody felt, I couldn't have witnessed this before in my life. Everyone recognized that the horizon opens up. And I think that it's alchemistical, that this is this magic moment where no one knows how something happens, but suddenly it works.
Food for thoughts ignites the soul.
Radical atoms is a vision about future hypothetical materials, which physical, computational, and dynamic. These are materials which enable artists, designers, express their concept in a totally new way.
We'll face digitized, robotized, and matterized times. These 3 points, that will determine our future, had a strong presence at the Ars Electronica this year. We saw the robots, we saw especially new materials seen here in the laboratories or in experiments. That could be in 5, 10 or more years on our bodies. Our food will change, our daily life will change. That's what will happen to the material, what had started with the digitization in the past.
Any and all is poison. Decisive is its measure.
We are basically developing a bio-composite materials that can respond to the change of humidity in the environment, and it's triggered by living cell.
Yeah, so basically you have the bacteria, which is very, very tiny. It's only like 1 micrometer in diameter. Your hair is about 100 micrometers, so you can imagine it's super, super small. But we find out a way using a 3D printer to deposit this small bacteria on top of flexible fabric. And after that, you can imagine that if the bacteria, it shrinks and the whole thing will bend up. So that's how we develop this smart fabric.
Yeah, and talking about fabric, we thought this material, the killer app would be for fabric, because your skin, when you sweat, when you're changing the temperature, you are constantly generating this trigger that could activate the motion of the bacteria. We made a running suit or dancing suit. When people wear, they do intensive motion, they start to sweat, you will trigger the opening of the flap, so your sweat can go out very easily, and once you cool down, the flap will go down to keep your body warm again. So it's like an adaptive fabric, basically.
So for me, the ultimate future of fashion tech is when things really become seamless and invisible. So in the way that we don't even think that we're actually using any technology when we're interacting. And it's a way for us to be able to augment our bodies, basically give us superpowers and all different kinds of skill sets, things that, they could be physical augmentation, it could be digital transformative augmentation. But really, it's about kind of getting down to the fiber science level and starting to embed electronic and interactive properties directly into the threads themselves.
We're trying to show, with 3D robotic printed components, like this big conical coral in the background, that, well, new machines and a new approach to architecture, which I call post-digital, not only digital designs, but also digital production and digital arts, that there are new solutions for improving the environment by using these new technologies.
Nicht nur Umwelt zu verändern und zu verbessern.
Now the world has 7 pulse. That is the course of the 7 planets. These 7 govern the air. And no, the air is but the spirit of life.
Die Idee, dass ich gehe ins Kaufhaus und kaufe mir ein Billy und stelle mir das
Buying a bookshelf in the furniture store and placing it at home just won't happen anymore. On the one hand, there will be objects that we design by ourselves. That will be individually done. That means there'll be the professional designer, but also input from the consumer. And therefore we need computers. And on the other hand, there'll be changeable objects that grow with us. These objects, let's say a table, will have the possibility to communicate with me like a living thing. This is just one of many possible futures that we're thinking about at the moment. And this is a scenario that I really enjoy.
Mir selber sehr viel Spaß macht. Könnte ich mir durchaus vorstellen.
Es hat sich die Medienkunst eigentlich schon wahnsinnig geändert. Wir sehen, wenn
Media arts have changed a lot in the last 30 years.
Ein Werkzeugdenken. Da ist sehr oft die Technologie im Vordergrund.
For a long time, it was tool-oriented, with an emphasis on technology.
Ob das jetzt ökologisches Anliegen, politisches, gesellschaftliches ist, das ist wirklich
Well,
toll.
not anymore.
Also das heißt, die Medienkunst
Now, it's become about concepts,
weil sie vom Werkzeug
if ecological, political, or social issues. So media art has gone from the tools to the content.
des heurigen Jahres. Wenn ich jetzt nehme, die beiden Schweizer,
Like the 2 Swiss with their spy project, which they've done in Berlin,
die P2P
or the P2P project in digital communities, or the youngsters in the U19. It's amazing what the youth is thinking about these days.
Anschaut, was die jungen Leute, womit die sich auseinandersetzen. Der Nika-Gewinner, der ein Spiel macht,
The Golden Nika winner, who invented a game where cancer and cancer sufferer fight against each other.
muss man kommen. Und auf die Frage, ja, wie bist du drauf gekommen? Der ist 17. Hat er gesagt, er hat halt nachgedacht und da ist auf das gekommen. Aber dann gibt es auch noch die ganz Kleinen.
And there are also the very young. There's an 8-year-old who's dealing with refugee problems. That's quite amazing.
Unglaublich ist das.
For me,
Und
this was extraordinary how socially engaged media arts is nowadays.
Medienkunst mittlerweile geworden ist. In der Animation so ein bisschen.
The animation, one of my favorite categories, as you can see, it completely leaves all boundaries. There's a lot of mapping where house fronts come to life, or one where the winner made a combination of graphics, real image and drones.
Einer der Preisträger, der hat das ein Kombinat von Realbild, von Grafik mit Drohnen. Es ist der Nika-Gewinner.
The Golden Nika winner made thousands of drawings as a base for his animation Rhizome. The roots beneath the surface and the philosophy.
Kleinste Zeichnungen und die sind das Material für die Animation Rhizome. Es ist so einerseits das Wurzelgeflecht unter der Erde, andererseits die Philosophie.
If it goes on like this, we'll face an extraordinary future of media arts.
Die beste Zukunft.
Maybe this sounds a little cynical, but traditional arts seem to be almost a little boring in comparison.
Schnelle Kunst dann so langweilig vor.
Men's might is a mixture of time and patience.
We think that the people who have composed the music, or who have produced the images, or who have written the poetry, are artists, or poets, or composers. In this exhibition, this is not true.
Yeah, Kim, calm down.
In the first section, we have works which are produced with a cybernetic device, with a computer. That is, computer-composed and played music, computer-generated graphics, and computer text and poems.
Art and craft must spring from love. Otherwise, there's nothing unmitigated.
When I started, it was 1965, and I called the project Computer and the Arts. But 3 years later, the title was changed to Cybernetic Serendipity. And you know, this word serendipity, it means to make happy chance discoveries. So you can see that I was very optimistic about the future. And so when I think what was happening then, how slow the computers were, how few of them we had. For the exhibition, we only had manual typewriters. But I was hoping for the best. I always believed, not exactly in machine takeover, but in sufficient development for it to become exciting. So, as time progressed, the computers entered art colleges. And so we started seeing digitally animated films. We started seeing robots and all sorts of things of that sort. Most artists have computers, and artists use whatever medium is available. So that's why I continue to have even greater hopes for the future and technological art. It's changing year by year, and festivals such as, you know, this Electronic Festival gives us indication as to what's likely to happen. But I must tell you that the seeds happened long ago. We knew in the 1950s even that such things will happen. I mean, if you read science fiction, all the ideas we saw in science fiction books, etc., they are all happening. If you can imagine something, and more people imagine these things, so they happen.
When the stars radiate in it, the fish will sense it and will come forth from the ground.
The jellyfish are a symbol of Anthropocene presence of human interaction with the seas. Through the industrialization, through the overfishing, the numbers are increasing. the numbers of other animals are decreasing. So this is one of the ecological kind of points of the projects. And there is still some more stories to unfold. So scientific part, we have been doing lots of research with jellyfish. Like Aurelio 1 plus Hertz is like umbrella of 2 projects till now, and there will be also continuation. So in the first project, I was working on understanding the coexistence or co-working between the animal and the machine. The second one, the performance, which got this honorary mention of interactive art, is actually talking about this interspecies communication, interaction between different organisms.
He who serves the altar shall be kept by the altar. Believe the deeds, not the words. Words are hollow sound, but the deed reveals the master.
It's about transforming sound into another reality, into a three-dimensional object. Not transforming it into something digital, but rather into something real and physical.
Sie hat eine begrenzte Lebenszeit, das heißt, sie schwebt, wenn sie zu ihrer Existenz kommt, schwebt sie durch den Raum für eine bestimmte Zeit. Das heißt, sie konfiguriert auch den Raum immer wieder neu.
The soap bubble has a limited lifetime. It hovers through space for a time and reconfigures the space.
Man's groß. Und damit bekommt man eigentlich immer wieder eine neue Konfiguration des Raumes auch. Und damit einhergeht natürlich auch, dass man sich
as audience, watcher or listener, you have to change your position because these soap bubbles move through the space.
Weil sich ja diese Objekte bewegen und teilweise auch auf einen zubewegen und einen eigentlich auch konfrontieren.
Any and all want to fly, even before they've grown wings.
Spaxels haben ihren Namen aus einer Zusammensetzung zweier Worte, nämlich
The name Spaxels is a combination of space and pixels. Not picture element, but space element.
Eigentlich da in der Hand haben. Das formt aber auch ein ganz neues Medium. Es ist nicht einfach nur
This is not just a two-dimensional screen, it's a three-dimensional medium that allows us to send 3D characters in the sky.
Ist tatsächlich das Spaxel weiter hinten, wenn weiter hinten sein soll. Es ist dreidimensional.
Three-dimensional not only in our head, but in reality. And this was the basic idea of the prototype in 2012.
Präsentiert haben. Und seither weltweit geflogen.
Since then, we have flown worldwide. We were the opening act of the European culture city, Umeå, the Islamic cultural city in Sharjah. We were in China, we were in Australia, in the US, but it's been a long time now since we were in Linz. That's why we wanted to do something special here, with a world record flight at home.
Einmal präsentieren zu können. Und da haben wir natürlich dafür geschaut, dass wir genau in diesen spezifischen Fragen jetzt völlig frei gemeinsam in
And we designed a special choreography and program together with the composer Sam Auinger. to show all these special possibilities and qualities of this new medium Spaxels. We're really happy that it worked so well, and the feedback is just great.
Wie es ausschaut, gelungen scheint, weil das Feedback ist großartig. In einem weiteren Zusammenhang aber steht die Ars Electronica.
But also, the Ars Electronica always stands for dealing with new technologies and to play with them in another context, to start a discussion about ethical borders of using such technologies. Drones, for example, are a challenge and a provocation. Drones have the image of being military weapons, dangerous. Visions of monitoring come up in association just to the word alone. To use these drones in a civil social context, in an artistic context, is something completely different. Not the drones that are monitoring us. We are watching the drones. This was the goal, and I think it was successful.
Alone wisdom is despised by those who are incapable to perform art.
When you walk in, you see a large horn, which is a historic Edison horn. Edison voice recording machine from over 100 years ago. So referencing this history of sound energy and sonic energy being etched as patterns into matter, our assemblage does something completely different. It takes the voice, collects it from the space and turns it into liquid. And your liquidified voice then travels through tubes to 3 alchemical chambers that send your collected liquid voice to alchemical processes of purification.
What is man without a soul? The soul fills his void. Wandering offers more common sense than resting behind the oven.
The UNESCO created a new program about 15 years ago. The World Heritage exists for a long time, but then they wanted to honor creative cities in categories like design, gastronomy, film, and media arts.
Designerkategorie, da ist Gastronomie-Kategorie, da ist Filmerkategorie und da ist auch Medienkunstkategorie. Und Medienkunst natürlich die Kategorie, in der Linz.
There's a long tradition in Linz about media arts, thanks to 35 years of the Ars Electronica, the festival, the Klangwolke. Then there's the Ars Electronica Center and the Future Lab and Solutions. For the UNESCO, in this category media arts, Linz was a valuable, important partner. So we were in the project when we first made an application.
Sofort aufgenommen worden. alchemists dreamed to create the precious metal like a gold through all the explorations. In a similar way, we are now using all the digital fabrications, material science, biology, chemistry, to create new materials for expression, communication, and design. So I'm very delighted to see the subtitle of Alchemists of the Today.
Man is the field, the heart his tree, his works his bounty.
For a very long time, there was this gap between spiritual and material ideas, between the mental and mathematical on one hand, and on the other hand, the material. Philosophers discussed this for centuries. But now we can see there's never been an opposition in principle. The mental goes more and more into the material, controls it, federates with the matter, but also the other way around. The spirit is transforming into the material. There's no digital abstractedness. To use digital ideas as controllers, it has to federate with material, and so it changes into a new structure. I call it new materialism.
Ohne den großen historisch-dialektischen Materialismus. Das ist sehr aufregend.
The second existing thing is, but there we have to be careful, is because it needs our critical vigilance. A lot of the experiments we did in the 90s to test new shades of the combination of mind and matter have reached now new industrial levels. They're working, and by now they're a mass product. This is a perfect example behind us. We've developed this in the early 90s with some young artists in Cologne. Now it's a product and can be spread worldwide. We're heading into a new situation where there are no more ready products, but where in the combination of computer and material, everybody's able to make his own things, his own art pieces, his own sculptures. That can be exciting because it's very democratic, but it can also lead to the inflation of stupidity and shallowness. There, we have to be careful.
Müssen wir aufpassen.
Take a measure of gold, pure and fine, when the moon reaches the 12th house in Cancer. Melt it in a crucible and pour clear and fresh water.
What we had done was to give silk moths genes from a marine sponge that makes its endoskeleton out of glass. It takes silica from seawater, from silicic acid, a soluble form of silica and seawater, and then it incorporates it around this protein called silicatine to make the spicules that form the inner skeleton of the sponge. So this protein is promiscuous. So if you starve media for silica and instead provide it with heavy metals, semiconductors, it will try to condense these materials instead. We created a gene fusion of this protein silicatine and fibrin, the principal protein in silk. Then we post-processed the silk. We could feed the silk moths materials in their mulberry mush so long as it wasn't poisonous to the silkworms, and then the silkworms would spin directly these silks. But instead, we post-processed the silk in solutions, and the silicatine in the silk chelates metals from solution. We've done gold, platinum, silver, cadmium for an interesting reason. Yes, and other materials. I did copper sulfate. I wanted to make silk crystals for my crystal radio sets. This dream about the transformation of common materials into gold is like reaches deep into history. It's something that there's a certain kind of excitement about bringing fairy tales to life. There's also a kind of sadness, because once you've accomplished this realization, then the dream is no longer out there. You have to go find another one. But see, because you're bringing dreams to life, which is what art does, these silk moths kind of, they infer the existence of another kind of fabric, a fabric that's woven out of imagination.
A fish, confined to a glass, becomes within a few days a righteous king of bees.
If we want to manage it, that a machine speaks to a bee or to a group of bees, we have to understand how this could work, and we have to learn a lot about bees. And that's our main task as biologists. We want to understand how the bee is working. What is its threat? What could it help? We have partners in Paris, and they work with fish, and they have the same goal. But we want to go one step further ahead in the project Assisi. Although bees and fish can't communicate, they're life in different worlds, they don't speak the same language. We implanted a robot into these societies so that they can talk together via Wi-Fi or cable net. If one robot can talk to bees and the other with the fish, and the robots can communicate, well, then bees and fish can talk at last. The goal is as a proof that we enable, for the first time, the communication between bees and fish.
A day in spring without the scent of violets is a lost day.
We don't really talk to plants. What we do is to research how it could be possible to find a way to communicate or interact with a natural environment. Project Florence is a creative interpretation of how this could work. And we use speech to make it more transparent.
He who believes that all fruit ripens with the strawberries knows nothing about grapes.
The bigger vision was to start a discussion. How can we manage to bring our natural environment back into our technological world?
Unsere natürliche Umwelt wieder in diese technologische Welt mit einbringen wollten, in der wir gerade leben. Und wir sehen wirklich, dass
Technology gives us the chance to understand biological processes and to learn about our environment. Technology can be used as a translator. So we think about biological interfaces. For example, in agriculture, for finding out where we could be using less pesticides, for example, because one can better understand what's happening exactly right at the fungal infestation. In agriculture, plants were always manipulated to a higher level. And thinking about these responsive environments, I can imagine that this could work really well via biological interfaces.
Dass das nicht immer nur technologisch sein kann. Ich finde das ganz spannend, wenn man das sozusagen auf einer biologischen Ebene auch machen könnte in der Zukunft.
So Suntree Flower, the beer company, made the flower that used to be impossible. And they insert the gene from petunia to make the flower blue. And it's very special because it's genetically modified flower and it's sold everywhere. But there's no other product that's genetically modified, has no problem with public acceptance. This is the flower that's made for a pure aesthetic and design purpose. It's not for eating, it's not for feeding animals. So that created public to accept the first genetically modified product. So it's special. Then we created the clone of this flower to make it common flower, like flower like this, like flower on the street. So the idea is that flower is made in Colombia and it's shipped as a cut flower. So it's already dead. But by cloning them, we create a new life to them. We're giving them a new life so that they can have rhizome and they can be planted on the street and they can live in the nature. So we call it jailbreaking also. But it's actually, this act is illegal. It's a right, like copyright, that the moment you create a new, crops or seed, the right belongs to you automatically. So this project, we raised the awareness to this law that we actually have to change it from the voice of the everyday context.
Authority shall look to three things: justice, verity, and wisdom.
We have here over 85,000 visitors, over 800 artists, scientists, designers, people from the society world, as well as people from the fields of art and technology, all gathered in one place. It was an amazing exchange between these people who work in such different areas, but it was especially an exchange with the population.
Und es war vor allem ein Austausch auch mit der lokalen Bevölkerung hier. Also es ist großartig, dieses Gelände der Post City, das wir heuer noch einmal verwenden.
This great location, the Post City that we could use this year again, enabled us to start a dialogue between the experts, the population and the visitors, coming from all over the world, on a broader level.
Aber natürlich auch ganz stark zwischen all den Gästen, die aus der ganzen Welt kommen. Over
250 visitors came from Japan, 57 people from Peking, from Chile, from Argentina, Lagos, Cairo, from Tehran. We worked together for 5 days discussing the essential questions of our future. And I think we could gain quite a sustainable effect.